Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
We can do way better than that. Good morning. Thank you. My name is Harmeet Kaur Kamboj. My pronouns are they, them, theirs. And I'm here today on behalf of the SICK Coalition and the REACH Coalition. REACH stands for Representing and Empowering AANHPI Community History. And together, we're here for our second ever Advocacy Day. Thank you to lawmakers and community members alike for having us here in honor of Asian American, Native Hawaiian, and Pacific Islander Heritage Month, and also in support of Senate Bill 5963 and Assembly Bill 6579, a measure that would establish an AANHPI history and civic impact curriculum to be available for use in New York schools. Today, advocates from across communities and coalition groups will share their remarks along with the sponsors of S5963 and A6579, Senator John Liu and Assemblymember Grace Lee, respectively. We'll now invite Senator John Liu to the stage to share his remarks. Senator Liu.
Thank you. Thank you. Who are we?
We are REACH.
Who are we?
We are REACH.
Who are we?
We are REACH.
Whose history?
Our history.
Whose history?
Our history.
It's our history, and everybody's got to know about it. It's because people don't know enough about the AANHPI history that we have been the target of so many attacks, verbal and physical, discrimination, this bamboo ceiling that we're still trying to overcome. A lot of it can be overcome if we simply allow all New Yorkers and all Americans to understand that we have been through our struggles as well. Successes, no doubt, but plenty of struggles that we have gone through and continue to go through. It's the only way that we can be seen as Americans and as even humans. So I'm here to really say that we're very proud with Senator Ewan Chu and Grace Lee and Stephen Raga and many others. We're spearheading a bill, an historic bill that would require the teaching of the Asian American, Native Hawaiian, Pacific Islander history and experience here in the United States. It's high time that we did this, and I'm so grateful to the REACH Coalition. Listen, this is important legislation, and important legislation doesn't get done overnight. Sometimes, I don't want to say this necessarily too loudly, but sometimes it takes a long time. Sometimes it takes a few years. We're trying to get there as close as possible, and it is through all of your efforts that we keep getting closer and closer and closer. So thank you so much for being here and making a strong statement about what we stand for. Who are we?
We are REACH.
Who are we?
We are REACH.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Senator Liu. We'll now hear some remarks from our Assembly sponsor, Assemblymember Grace Lee.
Whose history?
Our history.
Whose history?
Our history.
When we talk about our history, when we talk about Asian American, Native Hawaiian, Pacific Islander history, when we say it's our history, it's not just our community's history, it is New York's history. It is America's history. And until we are teaching AANHPI history in classrooms, how can we expect young people to accept the Asian American community, to recognize us as New Yorkers, as Americans, as part of the fabric of this incredibly diverse state and country? It is absolutely imperative that we continue to fight for this bill to make sure that it can pass so that our stories are told in New York State classrooms. I want to thank the coalition here who has been so steadfast and determined and undeterring in their unwavering and their determination to get this curriculum bill done. Let's give a round of applause for the coalition. We cannot do this bill without you. And tomorrow, we are going to have our first AAPI Summit in the history of New York.
Yes.
To demonstrate to the Capitol, demonstrate to everyone in New York that we are here, we are not going anywhere, and we are going to yell louder and louder to make sure that the issues that we care about are recognized by government. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Senator Liu and Assemblymember Lee, for your steadfast support with our bills. We'll hear from some more elected officials now, first from Senator Iwen Chu.
Morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Well, I'm State Senator Iwen Chu. I'm just proud to be here with this strong coalition. We only have one message. AANHPI population in this United States history, over 200 years. Simple. Where's our curriculum? When we want this curriculum? When? Now. What are we waiting for? What are we waiting for? So the message is we're gonna push. We're gonna keep pushing. I understand Asian culture. We might be humble. We might be a little quiet. But guess what? We're American. We're American here. We're gonna use the same standard. We wanna be seen. We wanna be heard as equal as American. We're Asian American. It is time for our history, our culture, our contribution be dedicated, be reflected in our textbooks. Everyone, not just Asian students, everyone should learn about American history. So we're gonna keep pushing. I want to thank our bill sponsor, Senator John Liu, Assemblymember Grace Lee, and all my colleagues who support this bill, and all the advocates who are coming out to Albany, because we are united. We're gonna push. This is not just Asian American thing. This is American thing. So we're gonna push, make sure our history being reflected in our textbooks, in our curriculum, our students from K to 12. Every student from K to 12 in New York State, every public schools, everyone get to read what's our contribution. And then that's finally, we could have to see how we counter the Asian hate crime. I don't want to talk about Asian hate crime. It's a reality. We have to address it. The only way to find a solution is to see those things reflected in our textbooks. So thank you for coming out today.
Thank you so much, Senator Chu. We'll now hear from Assemblymember Stephen Raga.
Who am I? Good to see everybody here. I'm Assemblymember Steve Raga. I represent District 30 in Queens. Is Queens? I know you are. I see some constituents here today. Thanks so much for coming out here. Our bill sponsors for always leading the way. Our community leaders from across downstate, across the state, coming up here to let our legislators know that this is a priority for the AANHPI community, not just because it's API Heritage Month. This is what we should be advocating for every month of the year. We need this, our students need this, and we need to learn our history. And I'm not just meaning any students that are in any schools to learn in this curriculum. API students as well. Sometimes the first time you're gonna learn about our contributions to the state, to the United States is college, when you finally get an intro to API history or API activism. That's when I got it. So can you imagine how much more we would know if we were prepped with that before entering college? We need to know how our history is also intertwined and leads to our condition today, our situation today. I'm happy and proud to represent a district that's over 50% API. That's not at all a monolith. We have all South, Southeast Asian, East Asians in my district. And we want to be in New York, in a world where those people living in my district and every other districts across the state can read about what we have contributed to the city, to the state, and the country. And I thank all our legislative champions, all our community leaders, and everyone else in this coalition to make sure that this happens as soon as possible. Let's get this done. Thanks everybody for coming and supporting.
We're so grateful to our bill sponsors and co-sponsors and other lawmakers here at the Capitol for allowing us to be here today. We really could not be here without them. But another whole cohort of folks that are here today who are really essential to this project are our Reach Coalition co-leads and co-founders, Kulsum Tapal from the Coalition of Asian American Children and Families, and Brianna Sia from OCA New York. They'll share some remarks in just a moment, and I'd like to introduce Kulsum Tapal from CACF.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much to our lovely electeds for being our backbone here in the assembly, here in the legislature. And thank you so much to our advocates who took a 6 a.m. bus to be here. We are from all over the state, and we're so excited to be pushing for this really essential piece of this really essential bill, right? And I couldn't do it without our co-lead Bree, who you will hear from in a moment. But I just want to share that, a lot of people, we've talked to so many people in the coalition, so many folks who couldn't be here but are supporting online, who've supported in so many different ways. And we've heard so many stories about why this piece of legislation matters, right? It will highlight the history of solidarity between historically marginalized communities, not just within the AAPI community, but also within the Native Hawaiian community, within other historically marginalized communities. To highlight the solidarity between Black, Latinx, and Asian communities is a really important history that more people in our community need to understand. And this is just one thing that our bill seeks to do. I know that, like, in my education, I don't think I ever really learned about Native Hawaiian history, for example, right? How monumental could it be for a community to see themselves in the textbook for the first time ever, if not, And so that's why we're here, that's what we're fighting for, and we hope to see the bill passed. Thank you so much. Whose history?
Our history.
Whose history?
Our history.
That's right, I love the energy. Hi, everyone. Again, my name is Brianna Sia, and I am the Reach co-lead with OCA New York, and I also serve as OCA New York's immediate past president, and really proud to be here for our second annual Reach Advocacy Day. Second, amazing. Like Senator Liu mentioned, these things may take time, but we are going to keep coming back to this staircase, to the halls of our state capitol, to demand every single year until this bill passes that our history is taught in classrooms across New York State. Kulsum raised some amazing points about why this curriculum is needed in our schools, but I'll just share a personal story. Just a few weeks ago, I was here with Assemblymember Stephen Raga, as well as many of our sponsors of the AANHPI curriculum bill to celebrate Songkran, which is the Southeast Asian New Year. And as a Thai Korean American, it meant so much to me to bring my community here to the Capitol for the first time and to see themselves acknowledged by our state representatives. When we were here, many folks were telling us, oh, we never heard of Songkran, or, oh, we didn't realize that the Southeast Asian community is as big as it is in not just New York City, but across New York State. And so that moment really hit hard for me, that there was so much work to be done to ensure that our communities are visible. My grandparents have been here since the 70s, the 80s, and we have a history of contributing to our communities through our small businesses, our temples, our community centers. And we need to make sure that those stories are told in our classrooms and in our textbooks. This is part of a national movement from Florida to Illinois, and this year, Wisconsin. Asian Americans are rising up across the country to ensure that our histories are being told. And so I'm so proud to be here helping co-lead the Reach Coalition, which honestly, we could not do any of this without the amazing students, educators, and grassroots advocates behind us here. And again, like I said, we are determined, we're committed to support y'all in the efforts to pass these bills and to also continue this movement to make sure that our community is heard. And so thank you everyone again for being here. Appreciate the support.
Now, Brianna mentioned that students and educators are such a vital part of this movement, and they are those who are most directly impacted by these pieces of legislation. So we're going to hear from some students now. First, you're going to hear from Casey Wu, who is a current student and a member of CACF's Asian American Student Advocacy Project. Casey, come on down.
All right, Casey.
I want to ask everyone, what is the picture that comes up in their head when they hear the word racism? Most people would think of something face to face, such as someone going out in the street and having a stranger insult you or call you a slur. But I'm here to tell everyone that this is not the largest problem. These problems are not the roots of themselves. Real racism is insidious. Real racism is hidden within our culture. Real racism are the stereotypes that are propagated in the minds of our friends, our peers, our teachers, and our colleagues. Real racism is the AAPI folks being denied the help they need because of model minority myths or disaggregated data that falsely present our success. Real racism are the Asian kids who see themselves firstly defined by the implications of their race rather than the quality of their character. Real racism will eventually break out into violence and into oppression unless we are taught about history, unless we are taught, and unless AAPI are understood. I want to share a quote from one prominent Chinese American historian. What is not commonly seen is seen as alien. This curriculum is our way of saying that we will no longer be seen as alien. This curriculum is our way of saying we will know this is our curriculum. This is how we will make ourselves commonly seen. And this curriculum is our way of saying that AAPI history is American history too. Thank you.
That was incredibly moving. Thank you so much, Casey. We'll now hear from Meher Kaur, who is a senior at the Emma Willard School in Troy, New York, and a member of the local Albany, New York Sangat here. Meher.
All right.
Hello everyone, and Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh. My name is Meher Kaur Singh, and as said, I'm a senior at the Emma Willard School in Troy, New York. Firstly, thank you so much for this opportunity to speak and share a little bit about myself and my experiences. I have lived in East Greenbush, New York for all 18 years of my life. Throughout my schooling, I have been lucky to make amazing friends and learn from wonderful teachers. I have also been given the onus to educate and explain others on my faith, Sikhism, in my classrooms, either by explaining the visible signs of my religion, its histories, or the values that my family and community cherish greatly. From a young age, my Sikh brothers, sisters, and I were targets of teasing and bullying. From questions like, "What's that towel on your dad's head?" to "You can't play with us because you don't believe in Jesus." My Sikh brothers have even been bullied and had their turbans forcibly removed due to ignorance, due to a lack of education on what the turban is, on what our faith means. While I love a chance to talk about and share my faith, I do believe that school should be a place where students don't have to justify their identity, where students can feel not only safe and included, but also celebrated. If I feel celebrated, then that means my parents, my family, and by extension, my greater community will feel the same way. The bills that we are advocating for today, Senate Bill 5963 and Assembly Bill AO 679, will help do just that by allowing Asian American, Native Hawaiian, and Pacific Islander history to be included in our schools. By increasing the possibility for Sikhi to be included in our syllabi, it will allow me and millions like me to feel valued and important in our school. We always say that we as a people must learn from history. The experiences of Sikh children in school have often been negative, but with the inclusion of Sikhi in the curriculums, I know that the history of discrimination and bullying will not repeat itself for my younger Sikh brothers and sisters. I am grateful to the REACH Coalition and the Sikh Coalition who brought us all together here today and saw value in inclusive education. I am thankful that they deem my voice and story important enough to share today. Even though I graduate high school very soon, I'm continuing this fight so that the students after me can benefit from our collective solidarity. Thank you again for letting me be a part of the Advocacy Day today, and happy AANHPI month. Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh.
Thank you so much, Meher. We'll now hear from an educator who is also part of the community impacted most by this legislation. I'd like to invite Reshma Itti from the Jahaji Sisters and a New York State educator to join us here.
Thank you. Hi Hi, everyone. My name is Reshma Itti, and I am currently a high school teacher at John Bowen High School in Queens. I am also speaking today as a member of Jahaji Sisters. I want to talk about first what Jahaji is about. We are a grassroots organization focused on ending partner violence between in the community of Indo-Caribbean people. And this population makes up the largest population in our state and the second largest immigrant population in Queens. But our culture, our roots, and our needs are largely invisible. Not knowing one's own history can have a grave impact on self-esteem and mental health. Indo-Caribbean families also often don't tell children about their history because it was an ugly one in many ways. Typically, it isn't until these youth become old enough to dig and search for their own history on their own that they come to learn that they come from sugar plantation laborers who survived slavery by another name and fought back against British colonialism. Because of this, so many students lack a sense of identity and cultural pride, more often feeling ashamed of who they are. Jahaji Sisters hosted a Youth Artivism Academy last week, centered around art, activism, Indo-Caribbean culture, our history, LGBTQ community and history, and a lot of unlearning generational trauma. Some of our graduates from the academy are actually here supporting us today. It was an amazing experience, but it was also, it brought light to the fact that we had to fill in these gaps that are present within the public school curriculum. So in addition to not knowing your own history, growing up with your peers, not understanding or knowing or respecting your culture can be isolating. And it can add to the stigmas and oppression and marginalization of Indo-Caribbean, Asian American, Pacific Islander, and Native Hawaiian people. I've seen students being bullied for being other and the devastating impacts it has on their success and livelihood, and continue to see it and experience it every day as a queer first-generation Indian American student and educator. Students learn so much about how historical figures that we look up to and celebrated, how important they are in our history and in the fabric of our nation. But the conversations in the classroom are not centered around people with AAPI-NH identities. This teaches students of all identities that our history and our culture does not matter to anyone. This is a systemic problem that could be remedied by revamping our curriculum to be representative of the students that we serve. In New York, we have an immense amount of diversity in our population that is not and has not been reflected in public school curriculum. The erasure of this culture has been a burden AAPI-NH people have inherited from our ancestors and continue to bear, but no longer. Like any other cultural or social group, Indo-Caribbean people's culture, beliefs, and traditions are rooted in our history and ancestors. Through indentureship, global diasporas, and colonization, our ancestors emerged with a new culture and history that they could call their own. As an educator and advocate for equity, I believe that the education system, particularly the public school system, is the single most influential social institution to our society's beliefs, culture, and aptitude for success. We can and must do better for our students. The DOE curriculum needs to be fully representative of the students that we serve, and this calls for all educators and policymakers to be educated as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Reshma. It is such a delight and honor to have an educator voice present here. We're now going to hear from Jonas Wu, who is also a participant in the CACF Asian American Student Advocacy Project. Jonas, please join us.
Okay, Jonas.
Good morning. My name is Jonas Wu. I'm a CACF youth leader and currently a public high school student in a school in Manhattan, New York City. Growing up in the public education system, I always felt lost and confused as to who I was. I never really fully understood what it meant to be a part of the AAPI community. In school, I was never taught what being AAPI meant. I was never reassured as to who I was, and I sure as heck was never taught why I should be proud. They say that New York is a melting pot of cultures and people, but for the longest time, I couldn't figure out how these ingredients went together. Our communities have been systematically oppressed and harmed for decades. And the public education system needs to be a space where we can celebrate each other for what we've done, for what we've contributed to this country. Because this country is built off of our backs, and it's time that they started to thank us for it. The change we need right now is a change that has the extraordinary power to the extraordinary ability to empower thousands of students like me to be proud of who they are, to be confident of who they are, and to understand what their ancestors have done for this land. This bill has the power to do that. Thank you.
All right, Jonas.
Thank you so much, Jonas, for those powerful remarks. We'll now hear from a member of our steering committee, Mohammed Q. Amin, the executive director and founder of the Caribbean Equality Project.
When I say Asian, you say power. Asian! Power! Asian! Power! Asian! Power! That is what we are building. We are building power as a coalition. My name is Mohammed Q. Amin. I'm the founder and executive director of the Caribbean Equality Project, and we are a Caribbean LGBTQ immigrant rights organization in New York City. I live in a community that's been historically marginalized, Richmond Hill and South Ozone Park in Queens. For decades, we have been fighting for representation, and we are being told that our votes and our voice don't matter. But I'm here to tell you, with my colleagues, the Jahaji sisters, that Indo-Caribbean history is Asian American history. 186 years ago, my ancestors arrived on the shores of the Caribbean. They arrived in ships, traveled 2 to 3 months, and some of them even did not make that journey. Today, places like Guyana, Trinidad and Tobago, Suriname, and Jamaica has the largest descendants of Indian indentured laborers. And New York City and New York State is home to their ancestors, to their descendants as well. Sorry, I lost my. Yeah. Teaching Indo-Caribbean history is critical in honoring the legacy, struggles, and resilience of thousands of indentured laborers trafficked to the Caribbean and the double migration of their descendants. These descendants now contribute to the ethnic diversity and economy of New York, which fosters cultural competency, strengthens cross-racial solidarity, combats anti-Asian hate violence, builds political power, and ensures representation in public schools. We have the power to make history, and it's going to take all of us to make sure that we teach a curriculum in this state that represents the students in those classrooms. Thank you so much. All right.
I'd like to invite our final speaker before we share some closing remarks, Gurpal Singh, who is a committee member at the Guru Nanak Darbar Gurdwara here in Albany, New York. Gurpal ji, please.
Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh. We are proud to be here to advocate for this proposed legislation. We meet at our temple every week to pass on our Sikh cultural values, religious values, and a sense of social gathering for our community. The same goes on in mosques, temples, and other houses of worship throughout this country. And the purpose of that is to make sure that our children, our young people, stay abreast of their culture and their contribution to this world. We deeply respect the sponsors and the respected legislators of this proposed legislation. It takes a lot of work, it takes a lot of effort, and believe me, you are creating a gift for our future generations, which is priceless. it is not an understatement to say that Asian Americans, Native Hawaiians, Pacific Islanders, they are an integral part of the American tapestry, not only in terms of numbers, which have increased substantially, as you all know, but in terms of the contributions that they make. We are born here. Some of us are born here. Some of us came here when we were very young. I was 12 years old when I came to Minneapolis. We contribute to American society. We learn from American society. We need a history of our own to be reflected in our curricula, because the purpose of history is to develop a sense of belonging, that you belong in a society, that your practices, your history is shared with others. Without that sharing is what creates the misunderstanding and the stereotypes. Our Sikh Coalition's one study, for example, showed that roughly 8 out of 10 Sikh youth have been a victim of at least one incident of bullying or one incident of microaggression. We are not here to cast blame on anybody who bullies or creates microaggression, because most often, almost all the time, it is based on misunderstanding and lack of understanding and a lack of historical knowledge. We have a lot of media. You can observe videos of worship services in India and worship services in China, Japan, but there's nothing like textbook learning. There's nothing like written word, which blends with the written word about American history. We are part of American history. We are part of America. We believe in the American dream. We came here for the American dream, and the American dream lives on. So this proposed legislation will go a long way in making our young children into very, very productive members of our society. Bullying and microaggression, what that does is, at a young age, it blunts learning. It develops social isolation. It creates feelings of inferiority. And none of those qualities they sound good for the future. So we are doing a lot of good things for our future generations, and we urge the passage of this legislation. Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh.
Thank you so much, Gurpalji, and thank you also to Mohammed for your powerful remarks. I am so moved by the diversity of experiences here and the diversity of calls to action as well. I did lie to you a little bit earlier. We have one more student speaker that we would like to make sure has some time to share their reflections. So I'd like to invite Minesh Sumer, who is also a CACF ASAPer. Minesh, please.
Hello, everyone. My name is Minesh Samir, and as mentioned, I'm a youth advocate with CACF and a current senior in high school living in Richmond Hill, Queens. As an Indo-Caribbean student living in a predominantly Indo-Caribbean neighborhood, there has never been an instance where I felt that our collective identity was represented. So, I saw so many of us, but for some reason, I wasn't hearing many of us. You can imagine how lost I felt when I began attending high school in Manhattan, where I only saw one other Indo-Caribbean person in my class of about 850 students. People questioned my identity and told me that they don't think I'm Asian. These misunderstandings are something AAPI face every day, and our education system must address it from the root. Even though school is meant to serve as a means of self-discovery and developing a sense of identity, I often questioned whether or not my identity actually mattered and whether my experiences were valuable to those around me. For youth, school serves as the foreground for their outlook on life and provides them with a sense of validation with their identity. School should also be a place where we can share our experiences, not just somewhere we spend 7 hours a day in, only to do learning that doesn't even connect us together. The AAPI curriculum bill provides a promise to students like me. A promise that we will finally be understood by others in society and that we will no longer be viewed as the perpetual foreigner, meant to remain as the other in society. Especially when it comes to South Asian and Indo-Caribbean history, there has never been a proper sense of representation for our communities. Each year, NYC schools will ask us whether we feel our identity or culture is represented in our classes. I am waiting patiently for the day that students like myself can finally change their answer from strongly disagree to strongly agree. To do that, this bill is the first step.
Thank thank you so much, Munish, and thank you everyone for coming together today, and a special thanks to Senator John Liu and Assemblymember Grace Lee for sponsoring this important bill. As the Senior State Policy Manager at the Sikh Coalition, I've been working diligently with organizations and community groups to push inclusive and safe education for not just the Sikh community, but for all. It is truly inspiring to be here amongst some of the most passionate and activated groups and to hear them share their stories and experiences. For the rest of the day, volunteers who are part of the REACH Coalition will meet with elected officials in the New York State Legislature. If you have any questions or would like to learn more about the REACH Coalition's work, please feel free to approach any of us or email Kulsum Tapal at ktapal@cacf.org. Thank you so much.
Who are we?
We are REACH.
Who are we?
We are REACH.
Whose history?
Our history.
Whose history?
Our history.
One last, yeah, one more picture. Yes, okay, so do it. All right, folks, come on. If you weren't in the rally, come on in. Come on, come on. On three, reach, okay? 1, 2, 3. Reach! There you go. Awesome. All right, let's get a big thank you.